Now, a wise man once said there are two types of people in this world, the mediocre majority and us. Now, if history has taught us anything, it's that being our kind of unemployable is a line drawn in the sand, a rare genetic mutation that often rears its head at a young age. Now me, I was 15 when I first discovered that I could pay my own way selling homemade fake IDs in a playground at school. You see, even back then, I knew I wasn't one of them. Deep down, most feel it, and it's only a matter of time before it comes clear as day. You and I, my friend, are always the elephant in the room. Friends, foes and family members tiptoeing around the topic of what we do and why we do it, that dripping tap of doom, gloom and doubt. Every single word, every single sentence, a snipe laced with misplaced opinions and hidden agendas. A sobering self-imposed state of suffering and silence which begs the question, why is it those that are closest to us are the ones that hold us back the most? Why is it that those that we love are the ones that tell us that this game, that this business and that this life is too much of a risk and that for the sake of the family we should slow down and play it safe? The funny thing is, if you ask them to the face, most will say that they want us to be our best, but it seems at every turn they are trying to stop us from taking the steps most of us need to start pushing forward. Truth is, when push comes to shove, it's because they don't think like we think. You see, as psychologists will tell you, the human brain is wired for one thing and one thing only: survival. In other words, our brain's number one priority is to keep us safe and away from harm. Now, the important thing about that is that most people don't think like we think, which means that most people don't calculate risk like we calculate risk. It's why the majority see change as something that brings no good. A state of mind that forces them to believe that in order to stay safe, you and I must stay the same. It's why they want you to keep doing what's familiar to them. Because to them, that's what support is, that's what's being there for you is, and that's what love is. Case in point, my old man. Now, my old man, he worked for the same company, man and boy, from 16 until 60. Now, there's nothing wrong with a job for life, but when in my late 20s I moved back to the UK to start my own business, his words of advice were this: Charlie, you should get a job. And here's the thing, my dad is the most supportive man you can imagine. Without him, I would not be where I am today or have had the opportunities that I had to travel the world playing hockey. Yet in that moment, his instinct as a parent meant that he wanted to keep me safe. Now, because a job is familiar to him, that meant that he thought in order for me to stay safe, I should be an employee, not an entrepreneur. Yes, he loves me. Yes, he thinks that he's offering the right advice, but yes, he has a built-in limiting bias, and this is exactly why those that are closest to us are the ones that hold us back the most. You see, what most don't realize is that this kind of counsel forces us to be shackled by a limited perspective. Spending 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, locked inside of our own bubble. Sure, there are some of us that come up for air every once in a while, but when push comes to shove, the opinions that we hear the most are the opinions limited to our own, and the opinions limited to those around us that want to try and keep us safe. Think about the issue here, because they say that you, my friend, will be the average of the 6 men that you spend the most time with. Yet for many of us in our shoes, if they run the numbers, the maths makes for sobering reading. Nice guys, good friends, but mediocre is what makes up their counsel and their outside perspective. 6 invisible chains keeping them closed off and closed in and constrained by the self-imposing imaginary walls of second-class success. You see, I suspect if you run the numbers and you're 6, then you too, my friend, have already started to see the effects of this kind of echo chamber firsthand. It's why on your path to a one-man empire and to start moving forward, you must choose your counsel wisely. It's little wonder that every successful man that has ever walked this planet has sought outside counsel from other like-minded men. These men, athletes, CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, presidents and world leaders already understand that their limited experience is only a small piece of the puzzle and that they need outside counsel, they need outside perspective from others outside of their own chambers. It's why the Romans invented the Senate, and it's why Napoleon Hill introduced the concept of a mastermind group, to provide an island of sanity and outside perspective to the man at the top of the hill. A carefully assembled council designed to challenge perspective, challenge ideas, and challenge arsehole thinking, no matter how difficult it is to hear. Consider it this way: to successfully navigate this journey, the goal must become to assemble a group of other ambitious men around you. Other men who have money, other men who have family, other men who have respect, and other men who have loyalty. Ultimately, other men that have freedom and opportunity, and that is other like-minded men that will hold you to a higher standard than you currently hold yourself and will force you to take outside counsel and outside perspective. Now, the truth is, outside perspective will often revolve around these men trying to ruthlessly rip your ideas apart to try and find the flies in your ointment. But when the rubber hits the road, the more ruthless they are, the more vital they will become. You see, this, my friend, this is how you gather intelligence, information, and other ideas to tune and tweak your thoughts and your business and your situation. This right here is how the smart, successful people that walk this planet take control of their situation and can start making better decisions faster and start solving complex problems quicker. Take what happened to the now legendary fellowship member Mike Chester, the man at the helm of a furniture restoration business. Now, Mike felt like he'd got good support network at home, but worried that when the bigger decisions came about how to really push things forward, his friends, his family, and his wife tend to err on the side of caution. A worrying reality for most in our shoes when you understand that they just don't think like we think. Truth is, though, this was Mike's second business. After struggling to push his building firm past a series of plateaus, it folded, so he knew that this time things needed to be different. Now, concerned that the support that he got from friends and loved ones last time was holding the business back from its true potential, he sought outside counsel from other men. Now, like many, Mike initially looked at support from a networking group, but the long and short of his experience was that networking groups just seemed to be about selling to each other in the room. It's why Mike decided to join a specially assembled mastermind group, something he said was like a baptism of fire, as his business, his plans, his ideas got ripped to shreds in about 3 minutes flat. Funny thing was, he knew deep down that everything that they said was 100% right. He was thinking too small and thinking like an arsehole, and needed this type of outside counsel to shake up his perspective and his outlook. You see, there's a funny thing that happens when you sit across the table from another man who is doing something that you never thought was doable. You start opening your eyes to what is really possible and what is really achievable. Now, for Mike, what was possible with this kind of counsel in his ear was life-changing. By taking and acting on the perspective from the other men in the room, it meant that his business went from 150 grand in turnover to 450k in 6 short months. Even better than that, thanks to being pushed by these other men, he's just landed a 400 grand contract with the Hilton Group. Something that if he had suggested was achievable to friends and family members before would have got him laughed out of the room. So right now, I need you to see that Mike's story demonstrates firsthand the power in controlling your counsel and from who you take your perspective. Truth is, this is why I always lift weights with a spotter. Now, not just any old run-of-the-mill gym rat, but a monster of a fucking man that will push me beyond my limits and keep on adding the weight. Because there's a funny thing that happens when you load up a bar with 620s and have someone screaming, smouldering, and sweating in your face, lift, 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 the fucking bar moves.